Thank you for having me. My name is Alberte Rothenborg, and as was mentioned earlier, I'm originally a fashion designer trained here from KADK. I since did my master's in sustainability, and today I'm not really working as a product developer. I'm working as a sustainable consultant focused on circular economy and working generally a lot with communication. Because I think your presentation was so interesting, and when we speak to designers, a lot of them, they freeze when they see all these numbers on the board. So moving from a product development into more of a communications area is what I do in my 2 to 3 different jobs at the time. But today I'm mostly here representing Circular Fashion, which is a Berlin-based consultancy that works with changing fashion brands into a circular behavior. We call ourselves a design change agency. So basically we don't create products, but we help create behavior. We do this through workshops and consulting, where we go out and we train the design teams within brands, often interdisciplinary workshops where we also have sourcing teams and marketing teams, and having everybody coming together to discuss how they can take their brand DNA and transition it into a circular system and a circular design method. Then we have a circular design software and system that I'm going to talk a bit more about later. So somehow I'm quite a contrast to talking more about buildings and architectures, and yet there's so many terms that you guys have mentioned now that I'm going to repeat in our way. But I want all of you who is not in fashion, I want you to replace the word fashion that I mentioned many times. I want you to replace it with your industry, with your product, because a lot of this knowledge and a lot of these theories can actually be applied across the industries. But the reason that fashion is so important is because we're human. We all wear fashion on our bodies. In the past 10 years, the sales of clothing has increased by 50%. And that's even though a lot of us are aware of the fact that fashion is the second most polluting industry in the world. Most of the garments we have in our wardrobe, we only wear 7 times before we throw it out. And over 100 billion garments is produced yearly. 87% of the clothes we throw out is either burned or landfilled. This is a massive waste of resources. 12% is downcycled into materials out of lower quality, and less than 1% of the clothes that you throw out is actually being recycled into new textiles and new clothing. So waste is design gone wrong. We say that 80% of a product's environmental and social impact is actually decided in the design and production phase. And it's a lot of pressure to put on young designers, but it's also an awareness that you can use for something. I was asked to talk about how our look at materials can change to be more sustainable, but I think the question is a bit bigger than that. How can we change our behavior as designers to be more sustainable? And materials is a little part of that. The challenge is to create a circular system, both in fashion but in products in society in general, is that products must be designed for circularity. We need customers to know where to hand in their products when they're done with them, so they can be recycled. And we need sorters and recyclers to know what materials actually goes into a product. There's a lot of knowledge that goes lost right now, where we don't understand what materials and what fibers goes into furniture or goes into textiles. And if we don't know what's in it, then we can't reuse it at its highest quality. And the fourth is that we need to develop the existing innovations that are here on a small level to actually enable closed-loop recycling, where we can keep products and materials at their highest level. So when we talk about circularity, we cannot talk about materials alone. Materials is a core and a very, very important part of circularity. But if we use sustainable materials and circular materials, but we don't design it in a circular or sustainable way, then the value gets lost. If we don't consider how we design the product with strategies, as you guys mentioned as well, where we consider the use phase of the product, the value of the material goes lost. If this product doesn't come back into a closed loop and recycled in the end, the value of the material gets lost. So we need to consider as designers that our responsibility is no longer just creating a product, it's also thinking about how this product is going to be used. When we talk about life cycle assessments, in the textiles industry, you can have a life cycle assessment of the textile, where you understand what went into the material and the production phase. You can also do a life cycle assessment of a garment. A lot of brands have started to do this to communicate their sustainability. But they all talk about the life cycle assessment of the fabric or the life cycle assessment of the product. And as soon as it goes out of the store and you buy it, they have no idea what happens to it. And the most heavy environmental impact is actually not in the production phase for most garments, it's in the use phase of how much you wash it and how you wash it and how you take care of it and how long you use it for, or when you send it to landfill. So coming back to the materials, it's a very important part of circularity because we need to use and create materials for endless cycles. So we have the biocycle, thinking in a natural way of natural fibers going back into a biodegradation system and creating not waste, but nutrition. And then we have the technical cycle where we talk about recycling fabrics and materials in a circular way, and hopefully in the end replacing virgin materials completely. This is not the case at the moment. Most recycled materials need a very high content of virgin materials to be strong enough. To design for cyclability, I'm going to go a bit brief about it because you guys mentioned it as well. To design for cyclability in fashion, we talk about the two main components of monomaterial and disassembly. So disassembly is not just being able to take the components apart, but also considering down to the smallest detail, analyzing your product. What fabric or what material, main material, what do you use to assemble it with? Is it sewing thread? Is it glues? Is it buttons? Is it whatever? Going really down into detail and understanding that everything needs to be taken apart. So if you have a cotton shirt and you sew it with polyester, you start creating a blend. If you have a menswear shirt where you put glue into the color, you start mixing materials even though the whole shirt is officially made in cotton. So really looking into detail. This is a collaboration with a German brand we did on a workwear uniform where everything, it looks like different materials, but everything is actually made to be biodegraded in the end. Even the buttons, even the elastic band in the pants. So everything that we usually take contrast materials to create, with this one we've actually taken materials that goes into the same cycle. Or it can be rethinking assembling methods altogether and taking away all the extra stuff that we usually use to put a product together. There's also innovations of dissolvable yarns, so where you put the product under a lot of heat, water and pressure, and with that the sewing thread will simply disappear and you can take the product apart. The other one, I say designing for longevity here now because that's the main strategy that we go with a lot of fashion brands, but I would rather say designing for the assumed lifetime. So maybe one of you is creating a product that is only supposed to work for one day or one use, but then you also need to consider what material goes into that so it equals out, having this coherency between material and strategy. With functional durability, it's about looking at the stress points of the product. Where does it need to be extra strong to not break? It can also be emotional durability. Is that making a timeless design that never goes out of style? Is it making a product that the user can update themselves? Or is it making a product where you can actually see that it's aging and getting more story as longer as you have it? This code is created with a German brand called Manufaktum, and it's inspired by traditional workwear, where we work both with the biocycle and the tech cycle in two different garments that can be worn modularly together. So it's a bit like the house that you guys built, but this is a coat that you can wear across seasons, you can layer it, you can take elements off, you can add elements on. So what we do at Circular Fashion is basically creating a Tinder for fashion stakeholders. We create the network that puts all the stakeholders together so they have the knowledge and then they can create the collaborations to enable the circular systems within their brand and within the industry. To do that, we have the circular design software, which is a material database, online material library, where we have sourced the circular materials already on the market, assessed them, tested them chemically, And the most important thing, we've checked them with our recycling partners in the end, that they promised if they are designed for circularity, we will take these materials back and recycle them in the end. But as I said earlier, if you use circular materials but you don't design for circularity, then you're fucked. So the second part is our circular design guideline, showing the principles of circularity. And I showed you some of the extracts already. I think from a fashion designer's point of view, you're going to find the designs a little bit boring. But the whole concept of our training is that we go out to brands, we show them these very methodical examples of it, and then it's their job as designers to put in the creativity. So we don't want to blow them away with this beautiful avant-garde art piece. We want to show the method for them to adapt to their design processes. The last part of the online platform is our circularity check. So you can upload the different materials and zippers and trims that you want to work with, and then the software approves if it can goes into recycling or biodegradation in the end, or if you have a mismatch, if you've used some of the wrong trims for it, and it comes with new suggestions. Then we have a circularity ID. So all our partner brands are able to order these QR codes that is individual for each garment. This can be used for communicating with the customers, that they know where their garment were produced, what went into it, but also what they can do with it when they're done with it. Do they want to sell it secondhand? Can they hand it in for recycling? And where should they put it? So this is one of them. We're also working with other technologies that might be a better solution, but for now we found that this QR code label is the best solution. This same QR code is also used for the sorting facilities, so they know exactly what materials went into the garment and how they should recycle it. So, as I said, it's sort of like a matchmaking between the different stakeholders, so they are able to communicate and work together through us. And the circular design trainings, where we go out into brands, is sort of like the physical version of our online software, but we found that there is a huge difference between the commitment that a lot of brands and companies do when they say they want to become circular by 2030 or whatever. There's a lot of fashion brands currently doing a lot of goal setting and a lot of promises where they want to go. And when we have our first initial meetings with them, they don't really understand what circularity is. They don't understand where the difficult parts are. A lot of them don't understand that there is a biocycle and a tech cycle. So we found with these design thinking based workshops that we really need to go into the design team and provide them with these different methods and tools for them to adapt to their DNA and to their products. Yeah.